I was standing in the hallway, dripping wet from the rain, clutching a small paper bag with a brand new pair of sneakers inside. They weren't flashy, just simple, sturdy black ones with Velcro straps because Liam still struggled with shoelaces. He was 7, growing fast, and his old ones had holes at the toes. He'd tried stuffing tissues in them for weeks to avoid asking me for new ones. The second I opened the door to my parents' house, I regretted it. "You're late!" Mom snapped from the kitchen, not even looking at me. Dad looked over his newspaper with a sour face. "You better not have forgotten the envelope." I swallowed. My clothes were soaked. My fingers were cold, but the bag in my hand felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments, from where are you watching this video? I didn't bring the envelope, I said quietly. Silence. The kind that makes your stomach knot. Mom came around the corner slowly, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked at the bag. "What's that?" I didn't want to answer. "What is that?" she barked, grabbing the bag out of my hands. When she saw the shoes, her face twisted like she'd just seen something disgusting. "You bought shoes?" she hissed. "For Liam," I said. "He needed them, his old pair." "You selfish little brat," she screamed, flinging the bag across the room. The shoes skidded across the floor. "We told you weeks ago, your sister needs that money for her honeymoon. The resort needs a deposit." Dad stood, folding the paper like it offended him. "You always act like your son is some prince. He's a mistake, just like you." I blinked hard. My wet hair clung to my cheeks. "I work double shifts," I whispered. "I've paid for every birthday, every uniform, every school lunch. I've never asked you for anything." "And yet you still disappoint us," Mom snapped. "She's not family," Dad muttered, walking toward me. "She's an embarrassment." Mom moved faster than I expected. She slapped me across the face so hard my ears rang. I didn't even cry. Dad grabbed my arm, yanked me toward the table, and slammed me into the chair. "You want to act like you're better than this family?" he growled. "Then maybe we should teach you some gratitude." The belt came out. "Not for the first time in my life." And I sat there, biting the inside of my cheek as they beat me, not in rage, but coldly, methodically, for buying my son a pair of shoes. Afterward, Mom tossed a bag of frozen peas at my back like it was a favor. "Your sister's wedding is in a month," she said. "Fix your face by then. We need the photos to look nice." I stumbled out of their house an hour later, the shoes back in my hands and blood in my mouth from where I'd bitten down too hard. When I got home, Liam was asleep on the couch. One of his socks was ripped. I sat down beside him and cried for the first time in months. I told myself that night, never again. Not just the beatings, not the humiliation, not the decades of favoritism and pretending I was lucky to be allowed near them. They thought I was powerless because I'd been quiet all my life. They thought I was disposable because I was the single mom, the failure, the shame of the family. They had no idea that every scar they'd given me had turned into steel. And they were about to learn what it felt like when the girl they beat down stood up. I started quietly. Not with yelling, not with revenge fantasies. Just movement. The next morning, I dropped Liam off at school and drove straight to a job interview I hadn't told anyone about. A second part-time cleaning job. Nights at a downtown office building. I got it. 3 nights later, I added it to my already 45-hour week at the diner. I worked till 2 a.m. some days. My feet bled in cheap shoes, but I didn't complain. Because every extra dollar I made, I set aside. Not for them. Not for my sister's honeymoon in St. Lucia. For the moment they'd never see coming. And it came faster than I expected. It started at my sister's bridal shower 2 weeks later. I'd tried to opt out, told them I couldn't make it because Liam had a school play. Mom sent me a picture of her middle finger with the caption, "Show up or don't come to the wedding." I went. The second I walked into the hall, dressed in the same black dress I wore to every formal family function, I felt the tension. They had me sitting by the food table, far from the bride, far from the family photos. "She didn't even bring a gift," I heard one aunt mutter. "She bought shoes for her son instead," my cousin whispered. unbelievable. My sister, Crystal, stood in a glittering white mini dress opening gift after gift. Crystal, the same girl who once pushed Liam into a kiddie pool and laughed when he cried. When she saw me, she didn't even fake a smile. "You can go now," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This part's just for people who actually contributed." People chuckled. I stared at her, then my mom, who gave me that smug shrug she always gave when she wanted to say, "Well, she's not wrong." Then I walked out, quietly, calmly. But something in me snapped that day. That night, while Liam slept in our tiny apartment, I took out a notebook and started writing everything down. Not just about the shoes, about everything. About the time Dad made me sleep outside in 8th grade because I talked back. About how Mom used to hide my report cards so they could pretend Crystal was the only one getting honors. And I started taking photos too. I dug out old ones, Liam with a bruise from the accidental elbow Crystal gave him. Liam sitting at family Christmas with no presents, while Crystal's dogs wore matching sweaters and opened luxury pet treats. But I didn't stop there. I started asking questions. I called the resort Crystal had booked for her honeymoon and casually inquired about the cost of the presidential suite. I pretended to be her assistant. $12,000, prepaid in full, by a check written in my name. I froze. They'd forged my account info. I hung up, hands trembling. Then I walked straight to my bank and confirmed it. My parents had pulled money out of an old joint account I'd forgotten about, left over from when I was a teen. I'd never closed it. They'd used that account to make the transfer, thinking I wouldn't notice. The bank said there was no recourse unless I filed a legal complaint. And that was the moment I stopped being scared. I filed it, quietly, anonymously for now. And then I made one more call, to an old friend named Ben who worked at a small investigative podcast in the city. We'd lost touch years ago, but I'd once helped him cover a cheating scandal in his high school. I sent him the notebook, the photos, the forged bank activity, everything. And I asked him not to say my name. He called back 2 days later. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Because this is explosive." "I'm sure," I said. "But I want them to feel it, not just lose something. I want the world they care about to collapse." He understood. He always did. 1 week later, the episode dropped. A generic title, The Cost of Favoritism. When parents choose one child over the other. No names, no direct details. But enough. Enough for anyone in our town to recognize them. The story blew up locally. People started whispering at church. At the golf club, my dad's face showed up in a blurred-out photo on a town Facebook group. Then came the fundraiser. You see, my parents had built their whole reputation on being charitable, generous, involved in every local event, so the town had trusted them to organize a huge summer charity banquet. But this time, when they showed up at the venue, the board chair pulled them aside. "You've been removed," he said. "We're conducting an audit. Your names are toxic right now." Dad went red. Mom tried to protest. "This is slander! Someone's framing us!" No one cared. The whispers had turned to distance. Their friends stopped returning their calls. Their golf club reconsidered their membership. Crystal lost a brand sponsorship she was supposed to get from a local boutique for her honeymoon blog launch. She cried on Instagram, begging followers to stop sending her hate mail. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video? I didn't say a word. Not one. I just kept showing up to work. Smiling, living, watching. Until the week before her wedding. I received an invitation in the mail. Not addressed to me, addressed to Liam. Inside was a note. "He can come if you stay away. Your presence would make it uncomfortable for the real family." I sat at the table with Liam as he looked at it. He asked softly, "Mom, am I not real family?" I didn't cry. I held his face in my hands and said, "You are my entire family." And that's when I knew what I had to do. Not expose them. Not ruin them. But remove them. From our lives. From our hearts. from our future. The day of Crystal's wedding, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even check social media to see what was happening, because I was too busy moving. You see, while they spent thousands on florals and a horse-drawn carriage, I spent 6 weeks planning something else entirely, quietly, methodically. No fireworks, just precision. I'd taken a loan. Small, just enough. And with it, I bought a one-bedroom home in a small town 2 states away, near Liam's new school. A place where no one knew our last name. A place where I didn't have to explain bruises or absence or why my kid used to flinch when people raised their voices. And most importantly, I left no forwarding address. I gave no notice. I just disappeared. But before I left, I mailed them something. 3 packages. To Crystal, I sent back her wedding invite torn in half with Liam's note inside. You don't get to call me family when it's convenient. I'm not your accessory. To my mother, I sent a framed photo of me holding Liam the night he was born, still wrapped in a hospital blanket. I wrote across the glass in permanent marker. This was the moment I became enough. You just never noticed. To my father, I sent a pair of old shoes, the same ones I'd worn when I cleaned toilets at 2 a.m. to save money while they were stealing from me. Inside the box was a note. These got me out. Your fists didn't. I signed nothing. No return address. Just silence. I changed my number. Deleted every account. Started from 0. And God, that silence tasted like power. Months passed. One day, I got a letter forwarded through my old boss at the diner. No name on the envelope, but I knew the handwriting. My mother. The note inside read, "You're cruel. We lost everything. We lost you. You got what you wanted. Are you proud?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because revenge isn't always public. Sometimes it's knowing they have to sit in a house they can't afford anymore. Among neighbors who pretend not to see them. With a daughter who can't get brand deals and a wedding video no one watches. Knowing that the one they called the disappointment left first and never looked back. And the real kicker? I didn't just leave them behind. I replaced them. In our new town, I found a second family. Liam's teacher, who stayed late to help him read. My neighbor, Miss Rowe, who taught him how to garden. A single dad down the road who brought us soup when Liam had the flu. People who didn't care that I wasn't rich. Or pretty. Or anyone's golden child. Just people who showed up. People who didn't beat me for buying my son shoes. And Liam? He laughs now. Loudly. Boldly. Without looking over his shoulder. He lost a tooth the natural way this time, playing basketball and grinning with blood on his lip. And when I asked if it hurt, he smiled. Nope, this one's just part of growing up. I smiled back. Because that's the difference. Growing pains versus pain inflicted. I left the people who hurt us behind. And I didn't ruin them with drama. I ruined them with distance. With success. With a life that didn't include their names. And the truth? That's what crushed them most. Not being humiliated. Not being arrested. Not being exposed. Just being irrelevant. Forgotten. Exactly how they treated me. Exactly what they taught me. And now, my son wears his new shoes. And I wear peace. Both fit us just fine.